What are some of the insects in your lab? And just wait before we get into our, I think, very unique and fun chat today. Why do you work on such a large range, and what's the benefit of working on those?
Yeah, so in the past I've worked on Anopheles gambia mosquitoes. These are the malaria vectors down in sub-Saharan Africa. Then have worked on Harpagnathos saltator, the Indian jumping ant, and then have quickly picked up unlighted fireflies, also doing some longhorn beetles like the Asian longhorn beetle. And currently this summer we're starting up a butterfly chamber. We actually shut down our Harpagnathos chamber, and it's being converted to a squinting bush brown butterfly.
What goes into like a butterfly arena zone?
We'll slow down here.
We should be back, y'all. We should be back. Sorry about that. The internet decided that Stream Together needed to kick everything out. And it was not a fan of it, but we should be back. We should be set. We're going to resend the invite to Greg. All right. Apologies about that, y'all. We should be good to go again. There's a little bit of internet stuttering, but we should be all set now. All right, Greg, can you hear me again?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. All right, we should be good. Sorry about that.
Oh, no. It may be on my end. Rural Vermont, this is what you get.
That's I didn't even consider the Vermont angle to it. So for y'all who may have missed it before we were cut out, Greg was telling us that he's discontinued the Indian jumping ant section of the lab for now, possibly permanently. We don't know. He might be able to be reconverted. And there's now going to be butterflies. And so, Greg, you were telling us why, I guess, and how one even keeps butterflies in a lab, and is that even something that you can do year round?
So we can definitely do it year round, which is very fun. I think before I cut out, or maybe as I cut out, I was talking about rearing them on corn plants.
Yep.
So you kind of just put your popcorn kernel in there. You have to make sure it's a GMO-free variety of popcorn because you don't want to harm the midgut of the larva.
Oh, that's interesting. Why does popcorn harm the gut of the larva? And is that something that we should be worried about?
So, excellent question. So, it's the specific toxin that is found in a certain bacterium, Bacillus thuringiensis, or BT, and they have these proteins that the bacterium produces that perforates the midgut of insects. It binds to a certain receptor and perforates it, and that's what people are putting into like BT corn and other crops to kind of ward away, insect pests. We don't have the receptor. We actually have eaten BT many times. It's used heavily in organic farming as well. But yeah, we try to not use that because we want to keep these insects alive and not kill them.
Was that an accident? I assume it wasn't an accidental catch on y'all's end. That just seems like something. It seems so cool. And of course, it makes sense. You have to catch that, but it's like you gotta be thinking ahead of their diet to recognize that that's a thing.
Yeah, lepidopteran diets are always really challenging. So like the fact that this one could just exist on a corn plant, even though it's not really the native spot. It's a South African butterfly. But it's kind of cool that it can work.
Yeah.
And then you have the adults. You just slice up some ripe bananas and you throw them in with the adults and they feed on that. So they're not nectar feeders. They're frugivores. And you can just feed them on banana slices and popcorn kernels, which is super cool.
That's really, really cool. And is it something where, like, what question can you ask with a butterfly?
Well, I can't divulge as much as I would like at this point, but really asking all sorts of mating communication questions. So much has been done in moths, and butterflies are just specialized moths, and we really have not looked at moth communication in such a great detail. So we're going for like a bunch of firsts of like all the genes involved in this whole communication pathway.
That's really, really cool. And then presumably the expertise you have like in the ant olfactory system, you can translate to the butterflies, and so you got kind of like almost a technique base to work off of, because it may be in principle, not in practice, but in principle it should be similar to approach, right?
Yeah, and it's really nice that like really cool scientists are just kind of approaching me and they're like, I see you did this thing in ants. Let's try to do it in this other species. So that's how I got involved in fireflies. And then somebody at SICBE, which is actually a conference you should go to, and like you could do SciAnts from SICB, which is the Society of Integrative and Comparative Biology. It's like the coolest stories in like organismal biology happen there. But somebody
man.
approached me there and was like, "Hey, I got this butterfly species." And I'm like, "All right, cool. Let's get it."
That's such a like a pure type of science, right? Where it's just like people coming together for the sake of being interested in something. Like hats off. Like that is really, really cool.
It's just it's nice when it's just that organic and so, homegrown. It's like what should happen at science conferences as opposed to like the hoity-toity like networking and things like that. You're like, no, like just curious people hanging out. It was at the Insecti Drinks social that this all went down.
Yeah, and also like there doesn't feel like it's an immediate need as well, for at least in the context of how we're talking about it, to make it about humans. Right? It's just kind of like we get to study something because it's interesting, and that's just where it goes, which is like, again, that's why it harkens back to like the pure era of science. And so that's one of the reasons, like when we met y'all years ago, and then we communicated through email, and we had Greg on, and it was just one where I was looking up to Greg, and like this gentleman knows exactly how to do science. And it was just like your passion shone through then, and it still does now, about like how, kind of like a role model as to how science should be done. Like you were right then and still now like very honest and just like passionate about learning. And that's what I feel like at the base we all are as scientists. So thank you for what you do, Greg.
Oh, those are just delightfully kind words. Thank you so much.
So what you do some outreach as part of your position, and that's kind of what drove us for tonight's collaboration. Do you mind setting the stage for us on what exactly that outreach is?
Yeah, well, I think one thing that like it really stems from is I'm just such a nerd at heart, and like love all sorts of kind of nerdy pop culture things. One of the I actually teach a class on Marvel Comics and Society to first year students coming into the college. But there was this really cool opportunity when I was teaching entomology, and one of my close colleagues, Alexis Mikhailo, who's a mammologist, she was teaching mammalogy, and she's like, let's try to do some sort of big outreach project. And this could be a really cool thing. And she's like, I know a guy. And it was Gabriel Philip Santos. You may recognize the name. He's one of the co-hosts of PBS Eons.
Okay, that's why it rung a bell. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and just an awesome person. And he co-founded an organization called Cosplay for Science. So
nice.
Like they're going to San Diego Comic-Con. We did a panel on Pokemon Ecology Academy at New York Comic-Con last year, and it was awesome. It was so much fun. And I was dressed up as Bugsy, who's one of the bug type gym leaders at Azalea Gym. And it's just such a cool way with the really amazing mission. And check out the website. They do all sorts of great stuff, Cosplay for Science. And they are thinking like very similar to what you're doing in terms of let's try to bring science to places where it's not traditionally, exist. It doesn't exist there typically, but there are so many people interested in that you could like walk into a con floor and all of a sudden there's people super jazzed to talk to you about science. And he's a paleontologist and would do all sorts of really cool stuff, have like Jurassic World and like fossil specimens out there and like showing, or like a Pokemon pop-up museum, like, here's like mammoth swine and like it's based off of a woolly mammoth and things like that. So such cool things. So then Gabe came into our class and we do this large end of the semester project called our Poke Pop-Up Museum. And our students are designing exhibits to communicate that why these fictional Pokemon, mammals and bug types are really representative of real world insects and mammals in their own backyards, and to kind of make those connections to that as they're going around an interactive space with cool exhibits. And we have like 300 people come through from the community in like 3 hours.
Wow.
Which is super fun.
And presumably you're not just instilling a love of science in the students who maybe didn't have as close of a connection, right? Because you're not, they like Pokemon maybe, but not as much science, but all those 300 people coming through, right? You're making an impression on them as well. So it's like the level of impact the course has of how y'all is doing it like extends beyond just the students immediately, which is probably the best kind of course that you could be doing, right?
Yeah, it's literally our final, and it's so much better than like a boring, tired final exam.
Yeah,
It's
it's
like,
like,
hey,
hey, go make an impact versus
yeah.
memorize something. Nice.
And one of the things has been, oh, sorry.
has there been like at this final event, like with the this presentation that they're doing, has there been one where you've been kind of surprised in a good way, where there's like a connection that's drawn where you're like, I really hadn't thought of that?
I mean, we do a lot of work kind of along the way. So, like, I get those surprises like midway through the semester of
Nice.
like, oh, that's a cool connection and like lean into that. But then I get to watch that like spark of inspiration and then how they just run with it the whole time, which is just awesome.
Nice. That's as an educator, I feel like that's probably one of the best, most rewarding parts, right? Where you see the light click, and then not only does the light click, but the whole mansion's getting lit up now, and yeah, that's really, really cool.
And there's just like the orders that we put in are just so unusual of like, all right, we need a purple wig and we need a bunch of like battle bots. Like there was one group that had like a bunch of Heracross and pincers, like 3D printed models on top of a battle bot, and they were fighting it out and trying to flip each other just like, a stag beetle and a rhinoceros beetle. So super cool.
Oh, wow. So I see very easily why this makes a huge impact. Would you let us tell the folks why what you see as like the big benefit to this? Like, why is it worth to do something like this? And why is it worth for us to talk about like live on a stream about this too? Like, what's the broader impact to this?
I think like the big broader impact is that science is kind of welcoming to all sorts of forms and expressions of that. And we see that in pop culture. And you might not even know. Like you might not know that a chest burster from Alien is super similar to like a parasitoid wasp bursting out of a host caterpillar. So you see people kind of doing this. And then like the other aspect is that you get like kids and family members, of those kids coming to an exhibit like this. And then they're like, oh, like this person is dressed up as my favorite character in cosplay. And that's really cool. But now we're actually like, I approach with that context. And then as we start talking, they're like, well, I'm actually like a scientist. I'm actually an entomologist. And conversations happen that wouldn't normally happen because there's a shared interest in cool fandoms. And
it's a great way to hook someone in versus where they might not normally have been hooked beforehand.
Yeah, and science has been riddled with, the past with so many just like dumping a bunch of facts and jargon, and like that's not welcoming to anybody. That's not welcoming as a scientist, personally speaking. I'm like, come on, you can do better.
You should do better. Right.
So from the impact of like teaching students how to actually communicate their science, all the things that they have, the filtering and the learning process, the new synapses that happen as they're trying to convey it in a fun, creative way, that sticks. That's what like gives them the freedom and the ownership of that knowledge, and not just it's in this textbook with a bunch of bolded glossary terms.
Exactly, and then some italicized ones thrown in there for good measure. Right?
Yep.
So where should we start then tonight, Greg? Like, what are some of how do we define one that we like? Because I've thought about this in two different ways. One is that there's a benefit of the controversial, right? This is done so poorly that it's actually helpful for us. And then there's also this is done so well that this is beneficial for us. What's your preference? What's your favorite starting point?
I feel like we should definitely start at the positive, but I have this like really cool community ask for y'all in that next semester in the fall, I'm teaching this without my mammalogy colleague. So now we're going to do the Insect Museum of the Multiverse. So we're kind of expanding beyond Pokemon. And I have my fandoms that I'm aware of, and we can talk about some of those things. But like getting like really cool other pop culture corners that I haven't been familiarized with, that's a really cool like mission for our conversation. Like bring some cool stuff into the chat and like throw up some random ones and be like, oh, I think that's like a hemipteran, but I've never learned this. And just giving I appreciate, I want to, give to y'all, but like This is a really cool like brainstorming session.
And we'll go ahead and add that. Oh,
but
there we go.
I
And
feel
we'll go
like
ahead and add that to the Discord too, y'all. So if you have ideas, y'all, we should be back. Now we just need to oh, and there's Greg again. I think y'all, we figured out what the issue is. I think it's the internet not wanting to play from Vermont to New Jersey. So we cut my video feed to Greg so he gets to look at a logo, but y'all get to see him. So
what I also on my end, I changed it so that I'm using the like pirate Wi-Fi off of the college's Wi-Fi that has less restrictions from my lab. So maybe this will be better.
You know, that may have been in part it. So we have had other people who've like at their universities and mid like test run even kept cutting off, and it turns out there was like a firewall put against Twitch stuff that was kicking them. But so just to reset folks, what we were chatting about.
Raspberry.
Yeah. Right, y'all. Can you see in here? Can you see in here? Can you see in here? We should be back again. We should be back. Andrea, do you see me, Andrea? Yes, no, maybe. All right, there we go. We're going to retry again, guys. Worst case scenario, we can always go into, we could always pull in on Discord, but I think this is like a maybe guest star not wanting to participate as well today. No, he's coming back, Sparky. He's coming back. We sent him another invite. We switched the internet on his end, so I think guest star may have been not enjoying that internet switch. No one touch anything. I'm not changing like my windows even. This time nothing's getting clicked. So guys, thank you all for bearing with us. Greg had a request for those again to think about what fandoms might be related to the insects, like what he was talking about with Pokemon. So in what backgrounds and what movies and TV shows, comic books too, Greg, I would assume, and beyond.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like what may very well be something bug-like that he can pull into the class. And guys, we'll put up in the Discord, feel free to drop your ideas and we'll shoot it forward to Greg when it comes time for during his semester for his class. We already got chat saying, the tick, Ant-Man, the insects from Star Wars Episode 2 on Geonosis.
One of my students was just talking about them, like the hive mind, right?
Yeah. So yeah, already Spider-Man from Bryce, like you're getting the multiverse of the Marvel. Blue Beetle, there you go, pulling in some DC.
Nice. This is all good stuff.
So guys, keep the ideas going, and maybe we'll put we'll put a thread on the Discord, and we'll ask y'all to continue just to think of ideas. If you see any kind of insect connection that maybe, it just came to you, right? And you're like, oh, wow, I think that would be a cool thing. We'll just drop it in there and we'll send it on to Greg. Yeah, insect enemies from Ender's Game. We had 2 people say that. Pikmin, Greg.
Yeah, Pikmin, Animal Crossing. Mm-hmm. Like, Nintendo's actually got a lot.
Yeah, it's a really interesting question, and it's guys, I hope you all will help me and Greg out with this so that we can get some ideas for him and maybe pull up something clever, right? That we got to stump him and surprise him, Chad, that he hasn't heard of before, that he gets excited, right? So far, he's just like, oh, we're good. Moo asked for the folks, Greg, in the chat, how old are the kiddos that you'll be teaching? So their college level, is that like what level undergrad? Are we talking freshmen or is this like a senior class?
It's mostly seniors and juniors.
Okay, so we're good with like they should be versed even in older genres as well.
I mean, we also have people who like come in, they're like, I barely know anything beyond Pikachu, and they're able to pull it together, which is awesome.
Nice, excellent.
They could do the giant ants from M, things like that.
Nice. And all right, so Greg, is it going to drop all the way? Hold on. No, it didn't drop all the way. So we're getting an error about that guest stars having trouble connecting. So if we go out again, I think maybe we'll do Discord if that's okay with you.
Okay.
We haven't gone out yet, but
I think there was also a Google Meet, right, option?
Yeah. Well, I should be able to screen mirror that as well. But just in case, guys, we go out again, I think we're going to not do it via guest star. I was getting an error message from the feed that says, like, the guest is having trouble connecting. So I think that's the error kicking in probably with the Wi-Fi or something. But we'll figure it out if we need to.
Sorry.
No.
You can see, like, Wi-Fi and, like, internet connectivity is a key thing in Vermont politics.
That's right. We'll make the world more connected for everyone. Yeah. All right. So we have a call to action for y'all to think about something that's connected. I guess the next question is, where should we start? What organism?
I feel like we should start with fireflies just because I came prepared. I don't know if you can see it on the stream.
Oh, nice. What kind of firefly is that? It's got a hat.
Do you recognize the hat?
I do not. I can't really.
Or just the font is a tip.
Oh, well, to the show Firefly.
Yeah, it's Jane's hat that
Okay.
he like. It was like featured in like one episode. But I saw this at Comic-Con. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. This is a Photinus pyralis. This is the Big Dipper firefly.
Nice. Okay.
State
And
insect of Pennsylvania.
is that so within the show? Is that something where there is a connect? So I haven't seen Firefly. It's a shame
Okay.
that I have to say. What is
It has nothing to do with the insect ever.
Okay, so this is just a means by which to get folks interested in fireflies in general by being like, oh, I know that show, and then let me actually go back to its namesake. So it actually is not. I didn't realize it has nothing to do with fireflies.
Yeah, fortunately. But yeah,
I like the font. Yeah, that tipped me right to it.
but yeah, let's start with fireflies. I'm guessing you might pull up images of said fireflies.
Yes, I can. Which fireflies should we pull up? The ones we had talked about ahead of time.
Yeah. The good
got
old sunset firefly.
Alrighty, go ahead. 1 second. We want the sunset firefly, or do we want an original firefly?
I think sunset firefly.
All right.
This is just from good old Breath of the Wild, Legend of Zelda, and it's especially nice because they got the glow down to like the classic like yellowy green, which is like the ancestral form of bioluminescence in fireflies.
Let me go ahead and reset the source. There it is. All right. And there we go. So behind my head, y'all, see there is a firefly. So Breath of the Wild, for resetting us, Greg, that's on like the latest Nintendo Switch system, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so it's relatively new. And so it's not too pixelated. We've got some fluffy antennae here. We've got the light organ. We've got it looks like a lot of the wing structures are pretty well in place. I mean, this is like a pretty on point looking accurate firefly.
You got the elytra, the outer, like the forewing, which serves as the wing cover, kind of out and not flapping too much. And then the hind wings doing the flying, they're more membranous. But yeah, there was a group, I think a couple years ago, that kind of looked at the luciferase enzyme across all fireflies that were studied, and they used that to kind of put it in a molecular gene phylogeny. And they went back and they're like, all right, well, what's the likely ancestral sequence of like the earliest luciferase? And then they cloned it, put it into bacteria, and they're like, well, what color does it glow? And it was green. So
wow. Yeah. Okay, so is this? Yeah, I mean, this is yellow though, right? For the original.
Well, this is like yellowy green.
Okay, so like this might be harkening back to the original ancestral state, possibly.
Yeah. And I mean, Breath of the Wild has really good, they really captured a lot of diversity of insects. Back in like the Nintendo 64 days, they had like the bug that you would just catch in a jar, and it just was nondescript. Like, I think it was like a light blue oval with 6 legs, and that was it.
And yeah, I mean, this has come a long way to it. I didn't realize it has such a really nice structural information. It even has wing veins.
Yeah.
All right. So how do you rate this, Greg, in terms of like information, I guess, talking points, but also like just worthwhile?
I would go 9 out of 10 here.
Okay.
With the only downside is that not all firefly diversity is captured in the game.
And is that by
my unlighted fireflies, my dark fireflies? I just like to see representation.
How would one, if you had to ask them to do it, how would you image such a thing? How would you want that to look?
I mean, stink lines are always good. No, so I think Pokemon actually nailed it. I think like if we get our good old friends here with Illumise and Volbeat, they deliver on that front.
So those are fireflies?
Yeah, these are firefly type Pokemon, and like actually in Japanese culture, like fireflies are a major source of tourism interest.
So how can we tell which is which on this? So like we've got so one of them is the dark and one of them is lit?
Yeah, so Volbeat, and there's actually like some potential dimorphism. The antennae are usually a lot bigger on Volbeat, and that's because Illumise actually releases a sweet aroma that attracts Volbeat in, and then he's making all the different like light patterns in the sky to attract and to have this like dialogue dialogue communication.
So she's not one of the femme fatale, right? Because she's not lighting up and getting him over.
No, I mean, she can light up, and there actually are some species where it's suspected that it's not like just flash communication or just pheromone, that there might be like a hybrid. And she actually represents a hybrid because she has the sweet aroma, but she can also respond with flashes as well.
Nice. Very cool. Yeah. I had like a vague memory that they were associated with fireflies, but I didn't realize that there was the dark angle versus the regular angle to them too. That's really interesting. And the antenna too.
Yeah, and the eyes, the big eyes on Illumise are really good to see the flash patterns, but the larger antennae on Volbeat, all the better to smell you with, my dear.
Gotcha. And so is that usually a link where you have the antennal structure is indicative of what the odorant is like, or like the odorant receptors?
And just like the communication. So like one species that's about to come out for us is an unlighted firefly, and the antennae are huge, and there's like all the surface area, versus you look at some of the lighted species and the eyes are just like super, like almost the whole head and wrap around the whole head, and they're huge. So insects don't, across the board, they generally tell you what sense they care about a lot.
So by looking at their morphology, you can figure out what functionality is probably most important in their life cycle.
Exactly.
Nice. That's really, really cool. So just by looking at these Pokemon, then you could predict as well what presumably they're most similar to because of those structures.
Yeah, and it helps too, because I feel like the bug type Pokemon are like super close to their real world counterparts.
Yeah.
Partially because it was inspired, like the whole Pokemon franchise was inspired by love of insect collecting as a kid.
I didn't realize that. I guess that makes sense. Yeah, because I was thinking like Pinsir, Skyther, a lot of the original bug type Pokemon.
Beedrill.
Yeah. Very much look physically like their real world counterparts, at least much more than some of the other Pokemon.
Yeah, Caterpie is like a spot on tiger, swallowtail.
Yeah. You were mentioning that there is, just to tie back to Caterpie, that there is a evolutionary step which you do not enjoy on Caterpie.
Well, yes. So Caterpie to Metapod, it's widely believed that it was supposed to be Caterpie, Metapod, and then to Venomoth.
Okay.
And then what we know as Venonat has so many shared features with Butterfree that it's believed that there was a swap at some point. That's the theory that I buy into.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
The eyes.
Yeah. The eye. Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, the eyes are far more similar on the Caterpie and the Venomoth level. Huh. I like that hypothesis. I never thought of that one. Nice. We have a question from the chat, Greg. If Cherubi or Steen, which apparently are two Pokemon that are they parasites for trying to attract insect Pokemon? So are they parasitic because they're trying to attract those that would be drawn to sweets and nectar sources?
Ooh, there's so many examples in real life of attracting other things. I buy it. And there's a lot of things that I think another one would be Lurantis, which looks like a orchid mantis, but it's technically a grass type and a plant, but it's able to, I think, kind of prey upon things that it grabs. So yeah, I do love Cherubi.
Yeah, this one's very much looking like an orchid mantis here, and it's super, super pretty too. I'll be honest with you, Greg, the newer Pokemon, I'm a 151 kind of guy. And
same here. I only know the bug types after 152 and on. I'm bug purist. But I know the original 151 really well.
I'm if it hasn't come into Pokemon Go yet, because I enjoy it with my walks, I probably haven't seen it yet. But this makes sense, right? That this could be like an orchid mantis here too, and it even has that false pupil structure that we see in the mantises, and so it's you're nailing down a fair bit of the morphology, even though it's a little bit more stylized than maybe the original ones were.
And it's so funny because most of the grass types are very much animal-like in Pokemon.
Yeah.
So there's some wiggle room there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like all the Firefly connections that we've done so far too. So we had one more that we kind of laid out as a Firefly that's interesting. That's again not necessarily just in the Pokemon universe, but going back to a classic childhood component, right, of James and the Giant Peach.
Yes.
And this one is
Do you have the book drawing or the movie?
I have I think this is the movie one.
Yeah, like the claymation. Yeah.
Yeah. Is
I mean,
there a
both.
difference? Is there a better one?
No, it like the glowworm is like pretty much an afterthought in the books. It's just there as the light inside the peach. But like I think Centipede talks about that one being like, oh, it's very much, it doesn't have wings. It's a female firefly, but it doesn't have wings, and it's kind of like, sad for that reason. It just kind of hangs out on the top of the peach. But it's one like really cool example of real life fireflies where you have these larva form females that are known as glowworms that do not have wings. They just look like an extra big larva, but they are sexually mature and can mate with males that are flying around.
Is that their final stage? So for the females, where it's there is no adult looking component. It is, you're just a juicy giant worm.
Yeah, that is the adult, and you just are wingless, and why put energy into wings when you could put them into eggs?
So do the males fly and they look like regular?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and the males will fly, and the adult females will signal back. So the males would do this kind of more conspicuous flying around and flashing, and then if that female sees something that she likes, she'll respond in time with another flash.
So that's interesting that there is just like, it almost would feel like there's a species barrier at play almost, right? Like the worm grub-like body versus more of the classic adult body that an insect undergoes. And yet it's overcome, and there's this full-on like regular mating that occurs between these. And so see, I honestly didn't even remember this character from the movie. We've talked about watching it at home, but we've decided that it's a little bit of nightmare fuel inducing with the claymation, like looking back on it. But I guess
the book still holds up. We did that with our kids, and we're like, all right, this is solid.
Okay, nice. That's something that you taught us about too last time that you were on here, is that even at the worm stages, right, for the dark fireflies, there are instances where at the larval stages they glow. So you do have like a non-mature glowworm. I feel like that's another avenue that you could use when looking at this guy. Can you tell us, like, one thing that we've gotten as a question in the chat a couple of times from that is, what's the point of being able to glow underground?
So they're not always underground. Sometimes they're just kind of on the surface of the soil and whatnot, looking out for worms and snails and slugs. And that dim glow is, we see it far away as a dim glow, but if you're close up, that thing's bright. And it's a really good sign of don't eat me, because it's not going to be good for you with those toxins, the lucibuphagin.
So you'll then always, as far as we're aware, if you're glowing in that larval stage, you will have the lucibuphagens.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And or even if you can take advantage of that and glow, but not really have a high level. Maybe your mother didn't, your femme fatale mother didn't have a lot, but that signal, if you can produce that signal, it's a strong warning.
Are glowworms something that we regularly could see in the soil? Like if we started looking for them, is that something a regular person without a advanced microscope could find?
Absolutely. You have to kind of have it be pretty like fully dark to see them, but you'll kind of just see them hanging around. There's certain species you can find actually at like the base of trees.
Oh, interesting.
And around there. And you can find those largely like when they get big enough to really see in like the mid to late fall.
And is it something that you have to dig, or is it going to be just like almost soil surface?
You can kind of see them right on the surface.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, the chat was mentioning too that they haven't seen it. And I was like, yeah, me too. I've never actually seen one like out in the wild of what these look like.
Yeah, and so you can see them and they look like tanks. I don't know if you can pull up like a firefly larva image, but they are just little tanks. But there's actually one that we've been seeing a lot of. They actually just came out as adults, but the spring treetop flashers. I think I sent you one of these. This is Pyractomina borealis. I think this is the Microscopy Monday sample, but they'll just kind of hang out on the sides of trees in like the very late spring, early summer, and they just look like tiny little like ankylosaurus, like just armored.
Yeah, this image is not what I would have expected or predicted when, especially to, I don't know why, but the image glowworm, right? I still see, like, feel like it's almost a worm-like thing that we should see, and this, like, well, it is structurally that, but like the ridges and the plates are so well defined that it doesn't look like what I would like gummy bears is what I would expect, not something that's like looks like such a like a unit and a half.
Yeah, it is an absolute unit for sure. And then sometimes you can get lucky. I did this when we were in Pennsylvania. I flipped over a couple rocks and I found one of these larvae eating a earthworm that was like 3 times its size, but it just bites, paralyzes, and just munches away.
So it even is toxic towards other animals that it would be using as a substrate. So it's not just for defense, but also for hunting as well.
And I think there's different proteins that do that.
Gotcha.
Different
Oh wow,
molecules.
it's even cooler then.
Yeah.
Chat was mentioning that there is for your future references on what you can look at for connections in insects, a Nancy Drew game, and one of the tasks is to collect 10 to 12 glowing worms. And Holy Fire was saying, I always wondered if they were even real. But so you can harken back to now Nancy Drew as having this connection.
I feel like this is just good, especially as we do this, to like put books back on the table a little bit. My wife's going to be super happy I said this, but like James and the Giant Peach, the book instead of the movie, and getting more books out there.
Definitely. Well, I mean, you can get deeper cuts too, right? It didn't make the movie or didn't make the TV show, but we can talk about the insect and the book component. Yeah. So I totally not what I was expecting in terms of looking at this creature, but really kind of makes you think about, again, similarities that exist in nature. I like it.
Yeah. Ooh, should we move to dung beetles? I love dung beetles.
Yes. And then, Greg, just so you're aware for time, it is 10:20. Can we keep you a little extra since we over the hour mark?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Happy to be here.
Please let me know when you need to go. We can go to. I'm going to 2 a.m. So you can stay with us as long as you want, or you can. You can be like, look, I gotta tap out because I have like a family and everything. Whenever you would like. Just thank you for just staying with us.
Oh no, happy to. I think the family's watching, and even this is well past their bedtime, but I hope they're enjoying.
Perfect. Dad's on a Twitch stream. I love it. So dung beetles, and one thing that when we kind of primed of what we were trying to chat about with respect to dung beetles, I was shocked that this character is a beetle. Like I saw the image, I'm like, yeah, I see it, and it's in the very popular video game Hollow Knight. It did not. I haven't played it. I've seen friends play it, but it never even dawned on me that there was an insect in it.
They're all insects, and some they have some liberties, but oh man. But Dung Defender is my favorite. He's my favorite poopy boy.
And so I can see some structural similarities that look very much akin and resembling a real dung beetle, and it's got a poop ball, right?
And it will roll and hurl them.
And so that seems pretty on point so far. What is your feeling like assessment on the accuracy when it comes to a dung beetle here?
I think visually it's pretty close. It's one of the closer ones in Hollow Knight. Behaviorally, it's a little tough because that dung beetle does not want to throw its dung ball at you as an attack. It cherishes that thing, and it's a future home for its babies. So it loses points on that, but the sheer bravado of Dung Defender when you encounter him in the game, it makes up for it.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, right? Like there is a strong reproductive need to collect these dung balls, right, in the wild. So there are, right, if I'm not mistaken, territorial duels over these as well, where they're even stealing that occurs sometimes.
Yeah, and you'll make the dung ball, and you have like 3 types of dung beetles. You have rollers that are the ones that we see that kind of make the ball and roll it away. And there's such intense competition that they want to get that dung ball out of there as fast as possible. Other ones are tunnelers. They'll kind of go under the dung pat and make a little tunnel and bring the ball through there. And you have couples working together, which is always very nice. Mom and dad dung beetle working together.
Interesting.
And then you also have the dwellers who they're just going to hang out out in there. Other things might come by and pick away at them, but they just kind of hang out and try to raise their offspring in that fresh dung pat.
I didn't realize that there was also like dual parent raising in dung beetles. That's, I feel like, a really interesting fact as well, because it's usually, at least in the Nat Geo, presented as, like it's the male it's rolling up the ball, and then it's like, here we lay the eggs, and then it just kind of moves on. There really isn't that level of follow-up of what goes on with respect to raising the offspring.
Yeah, and I mean, with especially beetles, you get all sorts of species variation. But yeah, there's certain ones that'll kind of work and work very quickly to kind of roll the ball, drop the egg in, roll the ball, drop the egg. So they're working in concert.
And they'll just keep going and keep rolling as much as they can. So presumably with this Hollow Knight character, it's rolled up a bunch because he looks very fit, right?
Yeah.
And presumably there's a lady friend somewhere that's just laying eggs constantly in them, and now he's nuking his children.
He seems he's a lonely boy too, and all his friends have left. So maybe he's just waiting. He's waiting for the right one to come along.
Okay, so we're going down like the lone wolf. He's just built all the balls, and he's just like, there's no baby in them. He's just ready. He's just ready, and he's so handsome and fit, and yet he's all alone.
Yes, and he bursts out of the ground and then is like pumping his chest and saying, "Dog defender!" And it's just awesome.
I need to pay closer attention to when our friends play Hollow Knight, because we've had so many friends play, and honestly, it's one of those where I'm either watching on my phone or my laptop, and I'm not ever looking at the game really. I'm more looking at the interaction with the streamer. But now that you play, I'm like, you're right. I guess there were like very bug-shaped things in there that I just never even registered. And it's really cool that there's this level of accuracy in it.
Yeah, it's fun because like with the diversity of insects you have, like you get instant, like that's your whole, bestiary essentially, right?
Yeah.
Like you have all these animals to choose from in the insect world, and you can do a lot.
And there's, of beetles, I know the estimates are probably even more now, but 250,000 predicted species of beetles that you can take from. Like they're some of the most biodiverse animal that we're aware of. So it's like, you feel like you can make a whole game.
1 out of every 4 animal species is a beetle.
Yeah, like you could make a whole game of just the beetle varieties.
Oops, all beetles would be very fun.
And then you were saying earlier tonight too that you work on beetles now, that you have a beetle type in the lab. So is that another reason why this harkens close to your heart?
No, this is just my favorite character.
Gotcha.
My kids know this, but so fireflies are truly beetles. So we got those, but then we also are doing some work with like pheromone reception and longhorn beetles.
Nice. Do you have a secret favorite of those two?
The fireflies is really nice because it's more, like you were saying, just kind of like curiosity, like really wonderful changes that have occurred through natural evolution, versus most people's interest in longhorn beetles is like forest protection and pests, which is still super important, but it's nice when you can kind of just do more exploratory when you're not trying to satisfy USDA, NSF, and all that stuff.
Gotcha. Definitely. Yeah. You bring in the USDA and it definitely gets harder, right? We've talked about it, folks, with all the regulations at play and like how to keep them from spreading and being invasive, and it continues on a lot. Okay, so Dung Defender. Okay, I'm gonna say this is a pretty dang good one. And the alternative one that we had was a Pokemon variety.
Oh, a top-notch Pokemon variety.
And so it's in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. So there's 2 varieties here.
This is a fresh one. You got Relor and Rabska.
All right. So what is because I'm a noob at these games. So with Violet and Scarlet, we can see that there's 2 different colors of these beetles, and they have 2 different color orbs, and their eyes looks like different color, and some of the different body plan. Overall, though, they look like they do have the dung beetle shape pretty down pat.
Yeah, and they got it upside down largely. The one thing that they lean away from is it's a ball of mud, and it's not a ball of poo, which takes it down a notch in my mind.
Okay, and then Holy says that the beetle on the right-hand side there is the evolution of the one on the left, and so then that's the continuation between them. Interesting. Nice.
And they're also, the names, like Relor is roller backwards for dung beetle roller.
That's clever.
Is a swap of scarab, which all dung beetles are scarab beetles in that group.
Oh, that's really clever. Then there's like scientific like guiding stones, morsels hidden in the names on these. That's really, really cool.
And one of the things, like, and Rabska is a bug psychic type, which brings like one of my favorite little factoids about certain dung beetles, in that they use the Milky Way to navigate on like moonless nights, which is super.
All right, no, Greg, you can't just drop that on us. You can't just say that a beetle uses the Milky Way and just leave it at that. What?
So this is a really cool paper. I think it was like early 2010s, and it was in Current Biology, and it was like dung beetles use the Milky Way to navigate. And they were sitting there and thinking about like if they had an occluded sky and like didn't let them see, so they put these little plastic hats on their heads that when they're rolling the dung they can't look up, and they kind of went around in circles, and they weren't as efficient in moving away from the very competitive dung pile. But then when they have that available to them, they're able to make like a straight line away from that source. So they're kind of using it to orient their movement.
Wow. So how did we get from that, like being it directly like a Milky Way like signal, right? Like instead of like a star, like that seems like an extra jump to it too.
Yeah, and it's something that surprised everybody when it came out, and it's kind of like the Milky Way is like this nice little like white streak, like this band in the sky that you see. So they took these dung beetles to a planetarium, and they projected different patterns. They're like, all right, here's the full Milky Way, here's like the dim 4,000 stars that we know are a part of it. They reduced it to like 18 like bright stars, I think, and then they weren't able to be as efficient then, or like complete darkness, and they couldn't do it as well, which is like really cool because they had to have it completely dark so you can't immediately observe it.
Yeah,
they had these dung beetles like on a table, and then they would wait until like they would start it, and then they would wait until they heard a dung ball and a beetle fall off like the short little platform led, like and they would hear the sound, and they'd stop the clock.
The thud of the animal falling is when it's done. That is so clever, though. Doing the experiment in that way, like hats off to the scientists for using a planetarium to have a beetle go explore, and Chad's loving it too, that there's like the little hat, right, that goes on, and the follow-up question too of like adaptation of these animals to light pollution and how that could drive the inability of the animals to be able to direct and find where they need to go.
Oh, it's so cool. I just dropped the paper in the chat.
Oh, awesome. And it's open access too. All right, guys, we're gonna check this out. Oh, there it is. Holy hellfire. I wanted to see literally a hat on the it's not even not a little. Yeah, it's totally a little hat there. That is amazing. Whoa.
And the nice thing is the control was they did a clear hat. They just used like clear plastic transparencies as opposed to like the black opaque one.
I mean, that makes sense. That is totally the appropriate control. Wow. I love from the chat. I need to get my husband. And then several people, I love science.
Well, there's this other paper that is less related to the Milky Way, but it's like the same group, and like they just have the most creative solutions to doing insect behavior work with these dung beetles, where the dung ball actually serves as like a mobile air conditioning unit. So if you're out in the daytime, so daytime dung beetles, your tootsies on your forelegs get really toasty. So they had like thermal cameras on it. So then they're pushing along, and then the thought is that like if your head's down, if your head gets too hot, all of a sudden now you're not able to perform all the behaviors you need. It's too hot to do that. So then they found that all these beetles would like roll for a little bit and then sit on top of the dung ball for a little bit and then go back down.
Interesting.
And then sit on top and go back down. And they would actually watch in real time with a thermal camera that the feet were cooling down rapidly when they moved
to the top of the dung ball.
And by pushing the dung ball in front of them, it's actually cooling the surface of the ground that they're walking, so it extends a little bit there too.
And that's why they're not. Oh, that's really clever. Yeah.
And then to do the experimental manipulation, they put little thermal booties on the front legs, and they were able to go longer before they had to sit on top of the dung ball. So hats and booties.
Greg, thermal booties. Like,
yeah.
All right, we have to look up a picture of this too afterwards, because that is just the imagery of something like that, where you have the thermal booty going along, and they're just I mean, that is incredible. And like I think what goes to show for these kinds of experiments, right, is just how innovative the research can be when you're asking in almost like there's no way these people were jaded. I guess that's what I'm coming at with. There's no way these researchers were jaded because I don't know. How are you going to be? Oh my God. They really are. How y'all?
There's a good I think they have some good supplemental videos here too.
Okay.
If you want to look those later.
Oh my God, this is absolutely incredible. I know, y'all, we are we're clearly rabbit holing away from Pokemon, but this kind of brings into question, like, if you see a beetle character in a fandom wearing a hat or oven mitts or something, right, that's almost like a really unique talking point that you can talk about these papers and talk about like what is the biological significance of that. So it's like, I don't know. I think it's all a really like clever extra direction to go in almost.
And I feel like the Milky Way thing, like, I feel like Rabska being a psychic type, like it's tapping into the celestials and the cosmos. I feel like that works. That works for me.
It totally. I love the naming system as well that they came up with them, right? Because then you're directing it towards a particular like subgroup and how like the scarabs, right, versus the roller. I like that connection right to the celestials, like you just said, and then also that backwards movement,
right,
which is now because of the oven mitts. Like it's just such cool science to be able to do that. Yeah. All right. I have to rank these a little bit higher now than the Hollow Knight.
I think they are. Yeah.
I mean, the Hollow Knight was a unit. Don't get me wrong. Like it was a very well built insect. But like, there is something special about these Pokemon here, and
but they don't embrace the dung. It's all just mud.
Is that even for the pink one?
Yeah, and I think the canon is that there's like an egg inside, like the young is inside that ball. That's like that little light pink part in there.
Okay, gotcha. That makes sense. Oh, and Wombat in the chat got me. I thought there was a Heracross in the chat because we've got the Pokemon community game. I'm like, what the timing of that would have been brilliant if we had a Heracross jump in. The next one, Greg, that we're kind of, we're chatting about the beetles, is that there's snail-eating beetles.
Yes.
What beyond the name, right, that it's snail eating, what does this mean? Like, why are they eating snails? How does this correspond? Like, what's the deal with these?
Well, you get into some really dark things in the world of Pokemon here. Where you have so real life, there's these snail-eating beetles that have very narrow heads and thorax, like the front part of the thorax, and they're actually able to get into snail shells and feed on snails. And it's just a really great niche. Like, it's like this cool arms race of snails develop these shells for protection. Beetle develops a thin headpiece to get into the snail shell and take advantage of it. But you have the Carablast, the Pokemon here, and if you can only get Carablast to evolve once you trade it to somebody in exchange for a Shelmet, which is this one here. So this nice little snail guy with an armored thing, and you trade these two. But what you get out of it on one side is a Scavalier, which is literally the Carablast inside the snail shell of Shelmet, and it does become a unit as well, and it kind of just like, but so somebody gets this, and then the other person, I forget, I think chat's gonna tell me in terms of this, of like what the other, like with the Shelmet version, like the pink part of Shelmet escapes and becomes a I think it's like a maybe fighting type. It's like a ninja type thing. Yes, a Selgor. Yes, that's it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Get an image of that one too, since we don't have a plushie of
it. So I have many plushies in front of me. I have like a whole little bookshelf of Pokemon only bug type plushies, because these are the benefits of the Cosplay for Science pop-up museum, that all of a sudden we have a plushie budget.
I absolutely love that. So this evolution is kind of meh, right, in terms of like the trade-off, but the other one that you were telling us, the evolution here of Carablast and like going into the shell, like that is a really, really good one right there. And it's you're saying it's kind of dark.
Yeah. Well, and I think if you search like Japanese like snail-eating beetles, you get like really cool images of like a long-necked beetle with its head like inside a shell. Like it's so cool to see. But it's one of those things where it's like you can get like, all right, there's this really unusual morphology of this beetle. What could be the function of it? Just do some observations and hopefully you catch one mealing out on the insides of a snail.
Yeah, like structurally here, you can kind of tell, right, Chad, that it's that long, almost, I mean, it looks like the Pokemon, right? The horns kind of on the character and like the head structure. It makes sense as how it put itself into the shell to pull out the soft the snail. Yeah, it's dark, but I like it.
Yeah, it's a fun one. But it's one of those ones, it's like some Pokemon, you're like, all right, I can see like the very overarching, like this is a whole family of insects versus this is like super specific to a certain phenomenon, which is also fun to see.
Yeah, it's once you look at these insects and then you cut back to the Pokemon inspiration too, I feel like while it's stylized for the Pokemon inspiration, it's easier to kind of see what they were going for with that structure, especially with that curvature at the top of the head. And it's like you said, it's a really cool evolutionary arms race.
Yeah. Oh, should we move out of beetles or should we move?
We can. What are you feeling, Greg?
Oh, well, there's this one really deep cut. It's further down the list, but it's a game that I played on the Sega Genesis so much. Earthworm Jim.
Oh, okay.
This is really, really far out there.
Oh, good Lord. This character, wow.
This is the main villain.
This is horrifying.
Like Queen Slug for a Butt is the shortened version of the name.
This is absolutely horrifying. So, for the folks at home, what is this meant to be, and why?
This is meant to be a termite queen, and termite queens have this really, really expanded abdomen because their main goal is to lay eggs, and that's all they have to do. And the abdomen does resemble this like huge slug, just because it's so kind of bloated, expanded egg production factory. They can no longer move, and they pop out an egg every 3 seconds.
Wow.
Like, we could have like a termite egg counter for like a single queen, just like racking up eggs every 3 seconds.
For how long? Like, do we know a rough lifespan?
Anywhere from 30 to 50 years.
50.
Yeah.
Every 3 seconds for 50 years.
And so like I'm sure you've talked about like ant queens and how they're like storing the sperm for so long after like or multiple matings, but just in that one time frame, and they might live like 20 to 25 years,
right?
At the max, but they have to keep all the sperm alive inside a special organ in the female called the spermatheca. But that's why in termite colonies, you have not just a queen, but you have the king. There is a king termite who needs to constantly be providing sperm to sustain this egg production.
We actually have a emote of a termite king, primarily because, a lot of what we talk about right on stream is if it's the ant base, then there is no king. And so it's a little termite that has eyes because the male and the king and queen actually have the eyes, right, for the original flight and their dispersal. And he's got a little crown on his head and he does not have the engorged abdomen.
Oh, I'm seeing it. I think glued with gold is popping it in there. I love it.
Yeah, he's chowing down on some wood, but that was like the whole thing was that really unique biology, right, of how it's a social insect, but it's so fundamentally different, right, than like your bees or your ants. And so
it's a social cockroach, right? They restructure order.
Yeah. So this Greg, this is horrifying. This character. This was as a kid. You said you played this?
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. They apparently have 3D models of them you can 3D print.
Oh wow!
So apparently it's on Reddit, and you can follow the link to 3D print it. A naive question for you, and I don't know if you know the answer to this one, Greg, but like, how the males will have to keep mating with the females to keep producing sperm, right? And to like keep fertilizing the embryos. Is it something where mating can occur while the egg laying is still happening? Like, is it a different reproductive organ, or does that interrupt the egg laying for a short period? I
would imagine that it interrupts the egg laying because that reproductive tract is so connected to the the ovaries and all the things. So I think they need to stop. So there might be a little break.
Gotcha. No, I was just wondering because, like, like even here, this character, right? There's this long organ that's just going of how engorged they are,
Mhm.
right? And it just has that egg production line with the stem cells, presumably keep producing over and over and over and over again those eggs. It almost like from an efficiency standpoint, it would make sense to just have like a separate organ almost fired off for that.
Yeah,
But no, that's a really good, cool villain. Like the science behind it too, right? It's really well done. It looks like this one has wings though. Is that a knock or an inaccuracy or an accuracy?
that I mean that is an inaccuracy. Though I imagine that most of the time they're chewing these wings off. Maybe you forget, or maybe they're like maybe instead of being small, maybe they are originally like maybe didn't chew off at the base.
Gotcha.
I
So
don't know.
these are still the wings, like the scarred wings that were chewed off, and that's why it's not gigantic.
Maybe, yeah. But I think it does knock it a little bit. But
Nice.
yeah,
I know that's a really cool villain.
it took me probably 20 years to realize that's what they were, mimicking here. That was the inspiration. I was like, oh, all right, cool. Queen slug for a butt. I think there was also like a doctor with like a monkey on its head, like on the top. It was a wacky game.
Yeah, the character art itself is quite scary. Like not just the 3D model, but it's very horrifying looking.
Yeah, the
But
final battle is quite spooky.
yeah,
Yeah,
I like it. It's yeah, no, it's great. It makes sense, and it's again really cool biology. And we have a second termite, right? That we can do a little compare and contrast. So we've got,
yeah.
let's see, again back to Hollow Knight.
Yeah. So I like Hollow Knight's probably the game that I dove in most recently. And because like so many people in my entomology class were like, you have to play Hollow Knight. There's so many insects in there. I'm like, all right, I'll have to check it out. I'm a fan of Metroidvanias.
Chat, do I need to play this now too? Do we need to play Hollow Knight here on stream? I'm told it's a very hard game and there's not like an easy setting. Is that right?
I feel like it's hard if you really want to do like a full completion, but you can like if you can do any sort of like simple platforming, like the exploration is fun and the interaction is fun with all the different characters.
Okay. All right. We might have to play. Yeah, I that is a very on point character.
And she'll like this is in the DLC. She'll actually like consume certain things that you give her, certain items, and then you watch them process all the way through her abdomen. And it might actually be 3 seconds until it comes out, and then you get like the improved version of that charm.
That's perfect. We actually just got a mega raid as well from Reiko Dactylisk. Reiko and Raiders, welcome in. Y'all, we are joined today by a very special guest, Dr. Greg Pask. He's a professor. Greg, is it okay if I say where?
Yeah.
Middlebury up in Vermont, and he is an incredible research scientist. He's a recently promoted, tenured professor now, and he does a really cool insect work on fireflies, on butterflies now. There's another kind of beetle too.
Longhorn, like general longhorn beetles, like wood boring beetles.
There we go. So we had Greg on for those eagle-eyed members of the community years ago before we were even Twitch partner. And we're having Greg back tonight to chat about the science behind existing, insects in pop culture. And I had no idea that in the game Hollow Knight, there is a termite queen, which we're looking at right now. So for anyone new coming in with Reiko, by the way, Reiko, thank you for the raid. And guys, Reiko recently defended his PhD. He is a real-life bioethicist extraordinaire and does science content over on his channel to chat about, right, the science behind bioethics. I hope you all had a great conversation. Raiders, my name is Balint. I'm 1/4 of our stream. The other 3/4 are our two kiddos and my wife Lita. Both of us have our PhDs in molecular biology, and we do science content here every day of the week. And we've been lucky enough to bring on some scientists, including the legendary Dr. Pask. When we had him on before, he sent us firefly samples, and we didn't realize that there was in fact dark fireflies that don't glow in the adult stage, or that there's fireflies called femme fatale that steal the protein package of immunity from other fireflies by tricking the males to come in so they can eat them, and everything in between. So y'all, welcome in. It's great to have y'all here. Reiko, feel free to share anything and everything, and let us know if y'all have any thoughts too about where there's an insect connection that you think is really cool. And Greg, I don't know if you have a quick plug as to why this is important for us to do, and like how you're adapting this for a classroom.
Yeah, so I've been working with Cosplay for Science for my entomology project, a really cool organization that's bringing science to non-traditional environments to get people excited who may have been, kind of had barriers put up in front of them, but then going to like Comic-Con and like talking about science and connections to pop culture. So we do a big outreach project for it's essentially our final exam for the class is to put on a huge outreach project where we've done the Pokemon pop-up museum now 3 years. And now we're ready for some insect museum of the multiverse. So we're trying to gather all these cool ideas of really cool examples of insects in pop culture to try to brainstorm and open up some new avenues for some of our students to get into and for some of our community members to enjoy in the future.
Yeah, so if y'all have any suggestions, we just actually on our Discord opened up a new thread to drop your ideas in. If you've got some kind of connection, we're like, hey, this is a really cool insect, let us know. So far tonight, we've talked about a couple of Pokemon. We've talked about a couple of Hollow Knight characters, which, again, I've watched friends of ours stream on Twitch. Never once registered me that they were bugs, and I work with bugs. We also talked about Legend of Zelda so far, James and the Giant Peach, and of course, Pokemon and Hollow Knight. Is there a, Greg, very niche... speaking of, and also a niche example here, guys. This guy right here, this is a termite queen from a video game called Earthworm Jim that we were chatting about. And do you remember, Greg, which system this was for?
This was for, I think it was both Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo.
Okay, yeah. Earthworm Jim, and it's this really horrifying epic boss. I mean, scary, but like it looks really cool. Oh, Super Nintendo from Pat. Very nice. Yeah, heck yeah. And Terminator Pig 2 says great game. Nice.
I knew I would love that game when I pulled out my worm body and whipped a refrigerator that was hanging to launch a cow into space. And it just said cow launched. And that was the first achievement. I'm like, all right, cool.
There's just no context. It's just like, yeah, of course. Why wouldn't it? Nice. So I guess, Greg, can we go through a couple more examples before we have to let you go? Do you have a few more little bit of time left?
Yeah, where you get to pick. Where do you want to go?
All right. So one of our mods does have a favorite insect that we missed, but so maybe we can finish off with one of those. But man, so Sonic the Hedgehog, that's something that we regularly love here. We even have an emote of an ant dressed as Sonic for Sonic Hedgehog signaling. I would love to have an example of Sonic that's not about hedgehog signaling and developmental biology. And I'm kind of surprised that I didn't ever once consider these creatures here. But what do you make of these? What do you make of these like robotic looking bugs, and what's that insect connection there?
Yeah, it's one that's like really cool in that Dr. Robotnik, as evil as he may be, he does recognize that like insect evolution has produced some really cool forms, and that it's kind of all about like bio-inspired design of taking some sort of insect ability and putting it into some sort of engineered, robot badnik. And I recently played through all like the Sonic 1 through Sonic and Knuckles with my family, and I was like, wow, nearly every level has an insect themed bad guy in it. And that was super cool. The ones that really annoy me the most, I think they're called slicers, but they're like praying mantis, and they'll just like hang out in these really weird, hard to reach spots, and they'll just throw their raptorial arms at you like a boomerang, but then they don't come back. So they're defenseless once they do that. But yeah, those are especially tough.
Let me go ahead and pull that up on the screen for folks to be able to see. Oh, yep, I remember this guy.
Yeah, so they have all sorts of really cool things, and like scientists are using kind of insect abilities to kind of improve technology in many ways. ways. Like dragonfly flight is modeled after, like they're trying to use that kind of flight pattern and the use of two pairs of wings to kind of make better drones and better control in the air. Same thing with robber flies, which are also really great in the air. Even something like a mosquito. There's reasons that, it's advantageous for a mosquito to bite you and you not to feel it. And wouldn't it be great if you could have a hypodermic needle that didn't hurt you a ton? So trying to kind of model different technologies after something that evolution has already selected for is really cool.
Yeah, the biodesign from there is really clever. Yeah. I thought you were going to go down a different line of thinking. Wouldn't it be cool if we can inject you something without you knowing, like some CIA stuff? But the hypodermic needle that doesn't hurt is even nicer. I feel like that's a much more pleasant direction to take it.
Right.
And listen, for those in the chat that say that's dark, tonight one of our examples of real life Pokemon and insect was this guy. All right, you see that blue fella, that Carablast? All right, this Casey Snowart, who's calling me out here, saying that this is very, very dark. This is based on a snail-eating beetle. And it turns out, Casey, that the way that you get this blue guy to evolve is you have to exchange with someone who has a Shelmet, and the evolved form is this snail-eating beetle inside of the shell of Shelmet. So, Casey, don't tell me that that's not dark. That it eats the snail. But all right, okay, there she goes. That is pretty dark. Thank you, Casey Snower. Nice. That's a really, really good point. I guess one of the things that I'd seen in the Sonic video games, this guy always. The motobugs always irritated me because it's always going to mess up that top speed that you're going at and that you need to account for and jump. And you're right, it is in fact like a ladybug looking structure. It's maybe based with the wheel, not quite on the movement side of things, but maybe the biomechanics is like the exoskeleton of a beetle shell and how it's very robust to a lot of different stresses. Not robust enough to Sonic, but from others, maybe it is.
And they're very good predators. I feel like the common societal thought about ladybugs is they're nice and pretty, but they will just eat and eat and eat. And most of the time in really good ways of aphids that are maybe harming your crops. You release both the larval form of ladybugs and the adult form, and they will be very aggressive as predators. And Motobug sneaks up on you and doesn't stop. Very fast moving.
Lacewings too are something that they will regularly eat, and that's I don't know if you've played the video game Grounded. But
oh no, I haven't.
But so the whole premise of that is you're a kid and you get shrunken down in your backyard and you have to survive. And there's micro ecosystems in the backyard where if you see lacewings and aphids, you will find the giant ladybugs, and they will be hunting those particular insects, and they will leave you alone unless you start hitting them. At which point they will come after you, and they are not easy. I also I'd never played a survival game before that, so I had no idea that you were supposed to drink and eat to stay alive in the game. So that was a fun revelation. We had a member of the community, Turgus, jump in and save me and volunteer to play every game night so that I wouldn't.
Very nice.
We had one suggestion about an organism that we have yet to have looked at, but someone asked about, was the connection between Godzilla and Mothra.
Yes. Yeah, Mothra is, I feel like of all the big kaiju in Godzilla, Mothra's like net good. Mothra seems to be a winner for everybody. And it's based on some sort of Saturnid moth, which a lot of people think it's like an emperor moth. But just giant fuzzy boy, very attracted to pheromones. So maybe there's something going on there. But yeah, anatomically, you can see there's different eye spots on the wings to potentially ward off predators. I actually forget. I feel like some of the modern adaptations of Mothra have I think maybe some big frontal lobes on the front, on the forewing, which they're really cool for knowing that they're actually good at kind of deflecting bat sonar. So instead of the bat kind of going at the body, it'll actually be more attracted to those large, the folds and the ripples on that frontal lobe, because a moth can still fly with a partial wing, but not if it doesn't have its, whole body.
So even then the modernized Godzilla one then is based on useful biology for the actual animal.
Yeah, and whether they're doing that knowingly or just looking at moths that have those features. It's just like really effective. And it's the same sort of thing. So some moths have like the frontal lobes, some moths have like the long tails on the hind wings, but nobody has both because they're redundant. They serve the same function.
So the long tails are also to throw off potential predators or echolocators.
Yeah. Bite me here. I can deal with no tails on my wings, but yeah, I don't want you to do the critical hit strike.
Huh. That's it. Presumably that's undergoing an evolutionary arms race as well, right? Where it's like you're trying to evolve like a deflector to come here, and then the bat or whatever is trying to, okay, can I detect a variance or a nuance in the echolocation signal to figure out, okay, what's the critical hit part that I should be going after.
Yeah, and really cool like manipulation. Not as cool as hats and boots on the dung beetles, but they can like cut off, they'll actually artificially cut off the tails of these like Luna moths, for example, and bat catches and successful hits increase because they don't have that little deflector, or I guess it's kind of like a hot, a heat-seeking beacon that would draw hits away.
So I guess in this experimental setup, you just remove those additional parts that would be your deflectors, and then you let the predators come in, and now the rate of predator success, like presumably skyrockets, because there's nothing to misdirect them.
Exactly. Yeah. That really nice, elegant studies.
Yeah. I mean, I still like the hat. The hat is still an S tier winner there. But yeah, those are like really, again, like the thing that I've really liked about tonight's conversation is that they're really fun, right? They're fun experiments. They're clever experiments. They're like thinking outside the box and how you're designing it. Like it's almost harkening back to, I don't know, like the 50s and 60s, right? Where you didn't have like a genetic tool to necessarily do the test. So then you built a hat, right? To prevent them from seeing it. Like it's MacGyvery, I guess, is one, right?
I love MacGyver.
Have you seen MacGruber?
I have. Okay. I think MacGyver's a little too holy that, I don't think MacGruber should be poking so much fun.
Fair enough.
I mean, I had all 7 seasons of MacGyver on DVD as they came out in college.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. I'm really, really loving like the connections between like the really cool scientific studies and then just the connections to the actual insects. And even if they're getting it wrong, it doesn't matter because as we're dissecting it, there's a lot of really fun talking points. And that's the whole goal right here, is to pull in people who maybe weren't interested before by showing them something that we can connect with, like Pokemon character, a Godzilla character, Hollow Knight, which I'm gonna have to go back and actually play this game now. It's really, really exciting to be able to chat about this. Because I want to obviously be respectful of your time, Greg, is there one or two that you want to finish off on that you feel like, we have to hit up as kind of a farewell for a bad reason or a good reason?
What was the I think we should just go all good. I really don't want to talk about B-movie.
That's the one I was like I was wondering about.
My students will bring up B-movie all the time, and I'm like, it's just like popular because it's so bad, but everything's wrong.
Lita has told me that there was a study conducted after B-movie on like the scientific literacy on bees of the general public, and apparently it did legitimate damage to people. No. Like I'll ask her for the study, but like it was actually a bad thing that the society has yet to recover from in terms of its knowledge because of how many things that it got wrong. And it's like, wow, I was not expecting it to be that bad, but it's like, all right, fair enough. I just remember the "you like jazz" part because my little brother thinks it's hilarious.
Yeah. Well, do you want to go? We could stay in Hollow Knight, or we could go back to Pokemon. It seems like people like Pokemon a lot.
I think Pokemon, and then we had, if you're interested, there was a question on ants versus Bugs Life.
Ooh. I think I've only seen Ants once, but I actually saw it in like theaters. I think my family won like tickets in like the local newspaper. I think Bugs Life is better because they add in so many other good insect types in the warriors that Flick brings in, with the flying rhinoceros beetle tank, and big fan of Heimlich, though I don't think those wings would be getting him out into the sky anytime soon.
I enjoy his wings to the very end, the little tiny nubs. It's like, well, he's not making it anywhere. We've talked about ants here. I think I've watched it maybe once or twice again as a kid. And I remember hating the movie because basically there's a scene of genocide in it, right? Where the ant colonies are at war. And it's accurate, right, of what would happen with like an ant duel between two nests, but it's not something that is pleasant for anyone to watch. And Stallone's head telling me, Adrian, like, I don't need that anymore. I don't need that. And yeah, they're also, as Smikes mentioned, they're also the wrong sex of ant for both of the movies, right? But it feels a little bit more wholesome with Flick.
Yeah, but the fact that like Flick is like kind of not really doing anything and not working, that's pretty on brand for most for male ants. It's all about the flying packets of sperm, and that's about it.
Oh, you're not. I see. I never thought of Flick as not doing anything until just now, but you're right. He really doesn't do anything. He just sits around and like comes up with random inventions and contributes nothing directly to the colony.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was trying to think what kind of ants they are, because like the queen or the princess turned queen is named Ada, but they're definitely not leaf cutters.
Yeah, I wonder if they're like, harvester ants. Yeah, yes. But I'm only assuming that because of like the seeds off the grass, like very much like the diet-driven component to it.
But I do know, like, I don't know necessarily if harvester ants have, interactions with aphids, because like she has the little aphid.
Yeah, aphid. That's a red herring there, because there's only one too. They have one pet aphid.
Maybe it's the start of a new evolutionary relationship.
That's okay. See, I like that. Look again. Back to science, y'all. Back to science. Okay, let's finish out with a Pokemon. Greg, do you have a favorite Pokemon that we have not covered that is we have to talk about?
One that I really like is Paris. I love Paris, but I know you did the little short on Paris.
Yeah, but it's a different take. It's a different take, Greg. It's a different take. Just because we did a short on it doesn't mean a thing.
All right, we could go Paris and Parasect or Nincada, Ninjask, and Shedinja.
Don't give me options, man. Because then I'm just going to be like, well, chat, what do y'all want? Do y'all want Paris and Parasect? Or do y'all want to go the cicada route? Because we are getting cicadas soon.
You got a brood overlap this year?
Yeah, there's supposedly going to be some up in New Jersey. I also, Greg, you're not going to judge me. I don't feel like you're going to judge me. I have a cicada here on my desk in a glass tube.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
An exuviae?
I think so. We collected these down in Georgia when we went last year. We did a couple of IRL streams where we were collecting and showing people like the different stages of their life history, and then we were collecting them off the trees and showing like how your body temperature can affect their movement as well. And it was they have no defenses, right? They're just a really neat species.
Well, I think we should talk cicadas then.
Okay. Sorry, y'all. I diverted us.
But yeah, and yes, I do have some of the representative.
Oh yes.
But like one of the cool things, I think I want to say I need to consult Bubblepedia here, but I think we have I think they're able to count 10 years. I think it's maybe 10 years for them. Yes, it's 10 years underground for Nincada. Just like we have the periodical cicadas that are 13 or 17 years, which are notably both prime numbers, which means that there's not as much overlap, which is super cool. But there's a really cool like question that people were exploring with real life cicadas of like, how can they know? How can they count, right? What's the math capabilities of a cicada? And they did this really cool study. So the cicada nymphs are down in the ground, just like Nincada, and they're sap sucking, so they're eating sap from the roots as they're feeding very low nutritional content, and that's why it takes them so long to kind of complete their developmental cycle. But you can actually you can manipulate the seasonal cycle on the plant that they're feeding on, and they'll come out a year early. Like if you give them like 2 seasonal cycles in a calendar year, those periodical cicadas come out too soon because they're counting the seasonal cycles through the plant itself, through the different nutrient changes that they get, which is just a delightful thing.
I think there had been based from that study, real world examples that were not intentional, right? Where there was like either a freeze and then a change into like extra heat that simulated basically this rapid turnover. And so it was from this small population they hatched. And because there was only that small population, not everywhere, they got eaten. So now that whole zone doesn't have cicadas. It's like, I think in
Oh,
Kentucky.
I don't think I heard that. That's cool.
Yeah, so it's like it replicated the experiment in a real world setting due to climate change.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think was a couple years ago that you had like two of the larger broods overlapping
Yeah.
in a certain area and you had like mass emergence. And it just really works. I love using this example. This is one that we used at New York Comic Con during our panel where I'm like, yeah, cicadas with this mass emergence, they're using confusion, a legit Pokemon move to kind of mass emergence that will confuse predators, and they'll just have all this mating success because you get all sorts of animals that are eating their fill of cicadas, and there's still so many more to be had.
It's a brilliant strategy, right? Like it's in where it shows like where you invest, right? Like, are you going to invest in immunity? Are you going to invest in toxin or behavioral immunity, like whatever? And instead of that, it's just like, we're just going to flood the system. And is it enough of us will get through that it's going to work?
Yeah. And one of my favorite parts about the whole evolution of like the Pokemon equivalent is you get a nice little 2-for-1. When Nincada evolves into Ninjask, then you get this nice little boy, this ghost bug type, Shedinja, will just be hanging out in your Pokeball. And it's really just one of those like really cool exuviaes that you find out on trees after they've just eclosed. And like even like the exploded back, all those little bits. Whenever I find do you have cicada like exoskeletons with you?
Oh, Greg, don't judge me. I do, but it has cordyceps popping out of it.
Well, that's good too.
Like, what's all on your desk? Oh, there's a lot. There's a lot on my desk.
I don't think I could do it. I have some up there, but I don't think I could do it justice. But like, if you ever look inside of a cicada exuviae, you see all these little like white threads coming out of it. Those are like all the old exoskeleton that were in the tracheal system. So as they're like emerging out of their old exoskeleton, they kind of avert and come out as like little threads. Cool. But those were the bits that were inside the nymph cicada, carrying air to all the cells in the body.
So if they're not like being ripped out, right? Like presumably during metamorphosis, it's now like on the outside of the body, and they're just like tearing away. So there's still like the internal tracheal system.
Layer. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It's still really metal. It's. I'm just leaving my old lungs behind. Whatever. It's fine.
Yeah. Just go. Yeah. Be gone. Yeah. It's fun.
That is really, really cool.
Well, cicadas with cordyceps, that's what is believed to be the Paris evolution. We can do both.
Yeah, if you are your poor family who's still up, they're like, oh my god.
My guess is that they're in bed at this point, but that's fine.
They said an hour. They're still going.
No, this is super fun. I love being on here.
If at any point you are always welcome. And please, not again like 3 years. We got to make it a more regular occurrence.
Oh, absolutely. We have a longer list of insects and pop culture to get through.
Okay, yeah, whenever you want. Maybe what we can do is if the community, if we come up with other stuff, we can do a little bit of back and forth on the next one. Like be like, here's what the community came up with, and then we can kind of live react together of like, well, what do you think about this as a possibility, and maybe to build out that multiverse a little bit.
Oh, that'd be awesome. I would greatly appreciate that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I do love that there is the cordyceps example here in the Paris and Parasect, and like the whites of the eyes were something that I thought was a really nice touch, which again, as a kid, I didn't even click in me, right? I just was like, oh, I don't even know what I thought this was at the time, right? Because now I can't unsee that there's like mushrooms growing out of the back of this insect. So I guess maybe I thought it was like some weird crab bug hybrid.
Exactly, yeah. And there is a specific cordyceps for cicadas.
And it's an issue, right? It's like their abdomen is getting covered.
Yeah, all these spores come out, like these fruiting bodies come out. But I think there's like actually a human health risk, because I think certain Asian cultures believe that the cordyceps infested cicadas are like a delicacy, and that can actually really do a lot of toxicity in humans.
And that's functionally different, because we get this question a lot, right? Because if you go to GNC, you can get a dietary additive, right, of cordyceps in a giant jar. That is functionally different, right, than the cordyceps that does the infection of the insect. So
I believe it is. Yes.
yeah, so like the toxicity isn't going to be the same from those two, but it's interesting that there is toxicity associated with what's built up in these insects. Like we're not going to get infected the same way, but there is this byproduct effect to it.
Yeah, and I think it's like a concern. Like there's enough people visiting for like intentionally going out to eat these. I found like this old paper because like as people kind of come into the Pokemon pop-up museum, we have a little like scrolling presentation of like the Pokemon and then the real world insect, and then I throw like Paris up there and then this cicada nymph with all these fruiting bodies coming out of it, and that's where that paper is. I'll find it and send it to you.
Awesome. Yeah, I've seen a lot on like years ago too of like frying up cicadas when like the big broods are coming out, and so like immigrants also will come over and be like, oh, this is so cool, like I can like revisit basically a delicacy from my childhood. But like I didn't realize that there was a toxic byproduct to it, like in humans as well.
Yeah, but I think only if they're like really at the large infection stage.
I see. Yeah,
or I think they might even like take some cordyceps and bury them to try to, or take some cicadas and try to bury them to kind of culture some of the cordyceps.
Gotcha. All right, so chat, don't eat cordyceps, at least not on bugs, please. And I like that.
I have had the like cicada nymphs, like or like freshly emerged adults fried in butter. It's like garlic and butter. That's the standard, and it's good.
What does it taste like? Like I guess texture wise,
it's a nutty and crunchy. But you wanna. I think the females are better because the males are mostly hollow.
For the stridulation, right? Their calls, their mating calls.
Yeah, the tymbals. You really get that reverberation if most of your abdomen is an air sac.
Fair. Not as tasty. Not as tasty. We haven't announced, science tip of the day, don't eat cordyceps. There's a Gene Tree says there was an ice cream shop that was ordered to stop serving chocolate-covered cicadas.
Ooh.
Maybe they got...
I would mess around with the chocolate-covered cicada.
I mean, maybe they got cordyceps infected and they're... The clientele was maybe not coming back as regular. But Greg, thank you so much for your time tonight. This was an absolute blast. Like, I know I learned a lot, y'all, and I hope y'all did too, about just how many real world examples are right in front of our eyes, like Hollow Knight for me, that we just go past without even realizing like all the really exciting and cool and accurate science in it.
Yeah, it's a fun one. Thanks for having me. This was a blast.
Absolutely.
Happy to be back. We can't wait 3 more years. We have to expedite that.
Yes, please, Greg. Is there anything before we let you go that you would like to, I guess, parting thoughts, and then also just if there's anything you want to promote, I will link your Blue Sky into the chat after the stream and in the show notes as well. But if there's, again, anything else that you want people to be directed towards, we're going to highlight again the Discord so we can help come up with some ideas. But again, anything else, the floor is yours, my friend.
Well, I feel like all of this connection between pop culture and stuff, like partnering with Cosplay for Science, opened up my eyes. And if you are in the San Diego area and going to San Diego Comic-Con, be on the lookout there. And then if you're in the New York area, the plan is to go back. We're actually just submitting our New York Comic-Con panels today. I think we have one that's Zelda themed and one that's Pokemon themed. So come check us out.
All right, y'all. And do you know when would that be in New York for Comic-Con?
New York Comic-Con is in like mid-October.
Okay.
I'm very excited because I actually don't have class on Thursday and Friday this upcoming semester, so I'll be there for the whole time.
Nice. Hopefully it doesn't overlap with TwitchCon, which is also in October. But that would be, I would suggest, a potential collaboration that we should propose for a panel coming up at a TwitchCon, because that I think folks would be very, very into there as well.
Oh, that would be fantastic. Yeah, it's October 9th through the 12th this year.
Okay, I think it's in the 20s for TwitchCon. There you go. You guys, you can see Greg, learn about Pokemon science, and then you can fly to San Diego and you can see us there too. Look at that. We can bring the science coast to coast.
There we go.
But Greg, thank you again, and we'll see you real soon.
All right. Thanks, y'all. Good seeing you.
Have a good night.
You too. Bye.